What is going on, guys? This is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today we're going to be talking about 3 game-changing deadlift tips. So if you can add these to your pull and execute them correctly, then I think your deadlift is going to shoot up. But now let's dive in to tip number 1. All right, so tip number 1 is using your quads more. And I know that sounds counterproductive because the fitness industry wants to paint the deadlift as only a posterior exercise where the quads aren't going to be really doing that much. But when we think about breaking the floor, especially in conventional deadlifts, what's going to need to be engaged and forcefully driving the floor to get this barbell moving? That is the quad. They're going to help the knee extend. So when we're setting up, don't be afraid to adapt a slightly more positive shin angle in order to engage the quad, or just simply find your big toe. That's often enough for most folks who already have really proficient conventional deadlifts to get that quad more readily engaged off the floor. So if I was to pop this barbell off the floor, my quads are engaged and I'm pushing the floor away. And then as I start to pass here, then boom, we shift to a more posterior focus to lock that weight out. So if you do want to see if you're actually engaging your quads off the floor, a useful drill that you can try is doing pull, mid shin, hold here for 1 to 2 to 3 seconds, back down, reset, and then do a full rep. And what that's going to do is in this mid shin positioning, you will definitely notice if your quads are engaged. If they're not, you're going to have like this awkward lack of balance, or you might feel just very uncomfortable, or like a lot of load is shifting to the lower back. And if your quads are engaged, these should be shaking and engaged. And then by putting that back down and doing a full rep, we're basically now giving ourselves like this proprioceptive cue in that mid pull to feel the quad and then implement that into a full pull. So tip number 2 is using your arms for more leverage. And this is really important for folks with longer arms or taller individuals, because obviously the barbell lifts are not always our best friend, but in the deadlift, if you have long arms, you can really leverage these to get more out of your deadlift. So when most people are setting, we'll think like pull those scaps back or overly retract the scaps. And what ends up happening is when we do this, look at our range. We've now just pulled up, and that's going to then shift our hip mechanics and knee mechanics further. So instead, what I want you to do is think about adapting a long arm position. So when you're getting set, just think about having your arms hang out here and chill, grab, set. And now instead of thinking about overly setting and pulling back, think about just instead pulling that bar slightly into the shin, and think about almost like connecting the glutes to the bar as you initiate your pull. So we're not overly retracting, we're just keeping that bar somewhat tight to the body, because as we start to initiate this deadlift, your lats are not going to physically allow your arms to just fully pull out of their sockets. So your lats are going to be engaged once you initiate this pull. And by thinking about bringing this barbell into the glutes, boom, we're keeping our arms long, but we're still having that bar track close to the body over the midfoot. So boom, to the bar. So as we come up, break the floor with the quads, tight, boom. And we're here, and our lats are already engaged. We're not overly retracting. We're letting our arms do their things. We're keeping a nice pack, and we're not taking away from our range of motion. So tip number 3, and I alluded to this in tip number 2, is shifting our mindset slightly mid-pull to get more out of our posterior muscles after we have broken the floor with the barbell. So this is a tip that my coach Adam and I go back and forth on too as we talk about deadlifts. But we've talked about in tip 1, breaking the floor and actively engaging those quads. And we've also talked about leaving the arms long. Now, once we've broken the floor here and we have a really strong position, and as that bar starts to pass the lower portion of the knee and the upper shin, I want you to think about taking this almost like closing your butt. So as you're pulling, closing. So this is actively squeezed and engaged. And I'm thinking about bringing these to the bar in almost like a synchronous nature, to where I'm forcefully extending at the knee, locking out the quad, and pulling my glutes into the bar. So just thinking about shifting your mindset as you pull. So boom, pop off the floor, push, pull. That's gonna keep that bar nice and tight. And once you get to heavier loads, it's gonna make a huge difference, because with heavier deadlifts specifically, they're a game of inches. So every bit of leverage you can get and shift your mindset accordingly to really use the muscles for your mechanics and for your anatomy, that is gonna allow you to more forcefully lock out weight and not lose weight forward, or lose balance, or just lose out on energy potential because of maybe losing your balance forward, falling backwards, or not physically thinking about extending at the hip and knee as you are pulling. All right, guys, give these tips a go and fine tune your deadlift accordingly. If you are implementing a new tip to your pull and you have been pulling a certain way for so long, give yourself a few sessions and exposures to really try out that cue and tip to see if it actually works for you. Some of these tips may not work for everybody, and that's okay. However, if you haven't heard of one of these tips and you apply it to your deadlift, give yourself a little bit of time and I guarantee you it is going to help you immensely in the long run. If you have any questions on this video or deadlifting in general, or if you want to shoot me some form videos for feedback, feel free to hit me on Instagram. But as always, guys, drop a like on the video, drop subscribe to the channel, and drop comments down below if you have any questions.